Any order? Start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Tonight we have Jason from BOCES. Going to give us an update of what's going on.
Forest, just moved up on my list. Favorite districts, not waiting now. Thank you. Lord.
Just don't aggravate us, Jason. Yeah, next time could be midnight.
Just wanted to give you an update on where you are in regards to students over at BOCES. Right now, you have 28 students at the Career and Technical Institute, 5 culinary, 4 computer, 4 security and law, 3 TV video, 2 in electrical trades, 2 in the construction trades, 2 in intro to health, which is nursing, 2 animal and plant sciences, 1 welding, 1 auto tech, 1 graphic design, and then 1 in the nursing assistant program. I give this a talent. Right now, you also have 12 special alternative ed students placed on our campus. You've got 5 in Salt Point Center, which is our K through 8. You've got 3 in district. You've got 2 alternative high school students, and you have 2 Pegasus students. On our end of things, we welcome 2 new superintendents. I think you know one of them. She will not need introduction. We also welcome Pine Plains Brian. He joined the crew. Healthcare bonus. I wanted to just give a kudos to your human resources department, your business department, whoever handled the healthcare bonus situation, because it was a mess. Just not a surprise since it came from the state. I don't know why they didn't put the counties or the state health department in charge of this instead of the schools, but I wanted to thank you. I know it was a difficult task. Construction, our capital project, we are at 95% in possession. 5% left, which is going to be the new front entrance and some offices over there. We should get that by this mid-December. So we'll be in full possession of the structure. January, we'll be probably opening up our conference center where they would do the technology side of the house. Come spring, and January, by the way, we're also going to send out invites for walkthroughs. So for all our boards, you'll see those invites. And also in the spring, we'll do an official ribbon cutting, and also you'll get invites for that as well. Anyone knows any celebrities who might want to cut the ribbon, please forward their name to us. Really, A-listers. Having some trouble returning my phone calls. I don't know why. People called them George Clooney. Couple others. CTI this year, Career Technical Institution, we added fashion and merchandising in a partnership with Marist. So we've been working with Sue Serino around that for about 2 years. For those who don't know, Sue Serino really led the funding for their Steel City, unbelievable fashion institute over there. It replicates anything you would see in Manhattan. We finally got it up and running. So this year we got a wonderful instructor who used to work in Manhattan and have launched the program. That would be the dual enrollment program moving forward, which would be credit bearing. We also added fabrication to our welding program. We partnered with Haas Equipment, and they were generous enough to give us a CNC machine over the summer. So that's now on premise and working. And luckily for us, our welding teacher is quite familiar with the CNC. It's the most popular machine in manufacturing right now. Our goal is to have about 2 or 3 more of those. We're working with Haas currently over the next year or so to have a nice little mechatronics advanced manufacturing center as part of our welding fabrication. We also are moving forward with our Honda and Toyota project. So, and that's in partnership with Dutchess County Community. So we're going to slowly transition our auto tech program to Honda and Toyota. So we'll be producing Honda and Toyota technicians that will go directly into dealerships around our area. We're currently working on ASE certification, and then we'll probably launch both September of 2020. And the college will also utilize that program as credit bearing. So it'll be sort of a P-Tech model. We'll start the first 2 years, college will finish it off with an associate's. We also are part of the individual arts assessment program, which is a pilot for graduation. Obviously, as you know, the state is looking for different pathways to graduation instead of just the regions. I don't see the regions going anywhere, but I do see it possibly transitioning into an option or really a course ending exam or something of that nature without as much weight as it currently has. Obviously, you currently have biliteracies. You have the biliteracy cert, you have the civic cert. The state also wanted to start offering a cert in the arts. So we're one of 37 districts that are piloting it. We're the only BOCES. On our end, we are piloting a entertainment technology pathway, which is really lighting, sound, costuming, makeup, everything behind the curtain of film and theater. It's currently being run in Capital BOCES. They're going on their 3rd year, so we're trying to replicate that program and bring it down to Dutchess County. So again, it would tie in very nicely to our carpentry, our electric, obviously, and a bunch of other CTI pathways. So we're excited about that. We're just in the planning stages, and we'll launch that in September. Programs that grew substantially. We had to expand our auto program. Another teacher for that program this year, and also our welding and fabrication. Those 2 areas are really growing. And as I mentioned, HVAC. When I mentioned HVAC, I also mean plumbing as well. We're adding plumbing on that. IMPT. So we were awarded a grant from the Department of Labor to start an industrial manufacturing production technician training program. So IMPD, Industrial Manufacturing Production Technician, is really the entry level into any manufacturing job in the area. So the beauty of this particular program is that it's portable, meaning we're using Tooling U, which is used amongst many of the manufacturers to upskill their employees. We're then using, kids will also receive an OSHA certification, and then we're also using 3D virtual technology where kids can actually simulate being on a manufacturing floor. And we're going to tie that into actual visits to various manufacturers around the area. So by the time they graduate that, they'll have an IMPT certification, which on their resume should get them into any manufacturing company in the area, entry level. So we're excited about that. From the state ed side of the house, as I just mentioned, they're really looking for options for graduation. Assessment wise, they're looking for multiple measures and trying to slowly get away from just the big bang test at the end, which just happens to be the regions in this state. Pre-K, obviously there's been a funding issue. We have a pretty desperate pre-K issue in this county, not being able to support services due to the funding from the state. And then that also is amplified by the fact of how many pre-K disabled students we have countywide. So the state is creating a new funding formula, which would be equity-based and more personalized for districts based upon their fiscal situation. From a BOCE standpoint, we're looking to create some room in classroom space at Salt Point Center to better serve our pre-K disabled ages 3 and 4. And again, that's going to be dependent on the funding. We've also reached out to county as well, just to let them know what the situation is, and maybe they can help out with the funding as well. So we're working with different avenues to try to figure out how to help this population. Because right now, the number just keeps on growing. Additionally, we're working with local industry and Dutchess County community. We just had multiple meetings with manufacturers around the area to really get a better understanding of what they need from their employees. Met with about 30 of them over the last month and a half, just to get a list of skills they're looking for, whether that's CAD, whether that's CNC. Also, obviously, there's a lot of interpersonal skills that we could all be working on currently, which is perseverance, showing up on time, persistence, being able to work in a team, being able to collaborate, things of that nature. On our end, we're also looking at programming to address the 4 through 8 workforce development challenge in this district. Obviously, most of our schools just don't have the monies for a job coach. Not only work with the high school kids, but work their way down to upper elementary and middle. So we're creating programming to better inform kids about what the careers are out there. So they have a better understanding when you hear the word STEM, that there are literally tens of thousands of careers under that umbrella. And you don't have to be a math genius or love science to get into some of those jobs. We just had a career panel with Bristol Myers Squibb, where they just reviewed, you know, the 750 different jobs they have under their umbrella. And I would say about only 25% were actually science and math based, right? The rest were marketing, product development, logistics, things of that nature. So we just want to get a better knowledge and talking to the superintendent that really seems to be a gap, just getting kids to better understand what the careers are out there. So by the time we do get to the high school level, they have a better idea of what path they want to travel. That is my update. I do want to just mention a quick little fact for those of you who were not able to get to the Bill Daggett workshop over in Arlington. The one slide that really stood out to me and a bunch of others, real quick. So obviously let's go to 1976. 87% of students had a driver's license. 1976, 85% of students dated. 1976, 87% tried alcohol, high school students. 1976, about 74%, 75% worked some sort of job for money. Okay, so let's fast forward to 2022. You're looking at a 41% of kids who have a job and work for money. You're looking at about 47% of kids who actually date, high school wise. You're looking at about 56% of kids who tried alcohol. And you're looking at about 57% who actually have a driver's license, high school wise. So if you think of how dramatically the student profile has changed from when we were growing up to right now, it's a lot different. We talk about we are teaching different students than what we did in the past, to be very honest with you. They have different aspirations, they have different goals. Obviously, when I grew up, right, that driver's license was a #1 priority. You talk to a lot of our kids now, it is not. And also looking at this data, you could also see that we're producing angels. I mean, they don't drink, don't got to worry about reckless driving, they're not dating. We're producing kids with pretty high ethics here. I don't know how they're going to contribute to society, but you know, how your student profile looks today versus 30 years ago, and what our teachers in the classroom are working with on a regular basis is completely different than the way we grew up. That becomes more and more starkly obvious when you think about how an iPad is connected to our arms practically. I have a 9-year-old who lives on her iPhone and iPad. So I think as we start moving forward, and we spoke about this as superintendents, I think you're going to see a lot more project-based learning, which we've been talking about. Career technical institutes, project-based learning, it's hands-on, multi-sensory, approaching problems from a different point of view. I think you're going to start seeing that, and that's going to start bleeding into academics. And you're going to see that transition over the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's a positive transition. We're producing kids who are critical thinkers, who are leaders, who can lead our industry and our country into the next 100 years. I'm hoping. So I want to thank you all for hosting me tonight. Any questions on your?
Just a couple. We had, I mean, Millbrook has put a tremendous effort in educating our kids on what BOCES is, what the capabilities are. I think you saw what was our numbers from like 2 years ago, tripled to the number of seats we had for. And well, one of the disappointing things was you guys ran out of seats. I mean, and you know, a lot of it was our, you know, late interest in these things, but has this expansion of the facility, has it added seats?
Yeah, so we're not only, we've noticed the trends over the last year, our numbers have substantially increased. Probably 10 to 15% increases, and if we're projected, we're going to be seeing the same over the next few years. So the expansion of the property obviously will help. I think also, and I've mentioned this before, I don't think any district should be held back sending a child to the career technical institute because of funding. Right, I think it should be funded. So we've been advocating down at the state level for different ways to fund students to attend career and technical institutes. And BOCES are here for a reason. If a child wants to pursue something, a district shouldn't have to choose between Peter and Paul and take money from athletics to send the student. You shouldn't have to make those difficult decisions. Funding should be there. So we're trying to work with our local politicians and also going down to the state and advocating for more funding for career technical education. We have a roundtable with Commissioner Rosa, I believe next month, just to discuss those kind of issues. Because what we're facing throughout the county. If the state's real goal is to create options and personalized education, I don't think we should be turning down kids who want to attend the program because we can't find it. So the state should supplement.
It's sort of a related question, and you can feel free to say no comment right now. Where are we with the U? I mean, the U, YOU. I mean, that it sounded like a good program, but it also concerned me tremendously that it was going to conflict with BOCES.
So we're part of the U. We made sure we were in regards to offerings such as career and technical education. For those of you who don't know, Richard Cooley, who was my predecessor, is on the executive board for the U. So I've been meeting with him monthly, just about the U. So we'll have a pretty strong presence. Again, I mean, on our end, the goal of ours is also to produce more portable programming for our districts, so they don't always have to come down to Poughkeepsie. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we created the industrial manufacturing production technician. We want to produce more programs like that, where we can actually bring the districts, so districts don't have to always come down to us. So those are things that we're working on. But yeah, I've been in those meetings. It's moving along. I don't expect them to break ground for another 4 years. Yeah, 3 to 4 years. Yeah. I have a meeting with Richard in another couple of weeks from the back place. I'll have more information about the superintendents.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's moving forward. We'll make it such.
All right, yeah, my biggest, concern with transportation, you know, we've talked over Millbrook. If somehow we have to bus our kids into Poughkeepsie, like basically the other end of the county, is going to be even more of a hassle.
We've stressed to them the idea of portable program, meaning if you're doing something in Poughkeepsie, I have districts around this area who are willing to give us space to do other programs. We're looking at that right now for our adults institute, to really take some of those programs and move them outside of Poughkeepsie, so districts in certain areas can take advantage of. And I live in Beacon, so I'm making the 45-50-minute ride every day, and Matt's got the same issue around. You know, we need more programming down by us. So it's definitely something we're working on.
Okay, good. Any other questions for Jason? I gotta tell you, I'm a huge fan of both these, always have been. Back in 1976 was when I left BOCES, so thanks for pointing out the inadequacies of my.
I know, I used 1987, that's when I graduated.
But I just gotta tell you, I'm really impressed with what's going on there.
We've got a lot of work to do. I could be very honest with you, we're really looking at everything we're doing. So we're working on us right now, because I think if we work on us, it'll better serve our districts, and we're just trying to listen a little more to see what the needs are. We'll continue to do that, but look for the invites. It really is a spectacular building, so we're looking forward to showing that off, but look for the new programming. It's really something we've been trying to focus on.
One related, and I'm not even sure you're even aware. So there's a major project in Millbrook right now with the Thorn Building, which was an educational facility, kind of went back and forth, but now they're going to put a lot of money into it to be specific uses. If there's any interest in seeing what is there and what they're intending to do, let us know, because we're going to try to tour that building and before they actually start making the investments, make sure that it augments what we're doing. It'd be great if it would augment. I mean, their theater.
We just stopped. We were looking for space around the city at Poughkeepsie.
Mhm.
Because a large part of our adult learning is walk-ins, especially for the literacy grant that we have. But we're going to approach that a different way. We're asking Marcus and his team to get another bus route to us. So yeah, we'd be interested in looking, just finding the space that we could better serve. Yes, send that in forward.
Yeah, if we can, I mean, I remember one of the best parts of my time at BOCES was working on external projects. It was just a blast. They're gonna be doing a lot of work. They're gonna have a theater, a pretty major theater in there that I would hope could be used by, maybe different shows. But yeah, we'll keep you.
All right.
Keep you in
Yeah,
mind.
and again, we'd also bring our kids down just to see the construction. We've been doing tours of our own construction now for 3 years, so kids get a better idea of what. But it's also, I mean, aside from going out in places, we have some work to do around educating our counselors and our teachers around what certain industries now look like, because they're different. Factories, it's day and night, what we grew up with versus the robotics that go on right now in these factory places. And in Dutchess County, Mars Rover has parts from Dutchess County. The way the vaccine was distributed throughout this country, those machines were made in Dutchess County. So our machinery and advanced manufacturing companies are major players in this country, and are desperately in need of workers. That's all we hear. So if we can produce that, we can produce engineers, we can produce entry level, we can produce mid-level workers. We'd be satisfying a big need.
Very good. Yeah,
Thank you all.
thank you,
Appreciate
Jason.
it. Wonderful.
Jason, this is, it's a high level, an overview of what they intend to do. So take a look and we'll reconnect.
Super. All right, thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks for taking the time, Jason. All right.
Have a wonderful holiday.
Thanks, Steve. Happy Thanksgiving. All right. So I did want to, because there's been a couple of people that have, I think, shown up to wanted to ask questions or something, but then the meeting runs late and they exit. I just want the public to understand that the questions and comments are really supposed to be related to items on the agenda. And it's kind of difficult to have questions before we actually do the agenda items. So we're trying to move that up as earlier as we than it is now. But it really has to follow, which is why it sometimes it probably seems like we're just dragging it out. But unless we've already reviewed items on the agenda, then there's not much to actually comment on. So I wanted the public to understand that. Next is the consent agenda. anything anyone wants pulled?
A question on number 4. Talk about or pull it.
Pull.
For the postage piece of equipment, there was 2 types. Are we leasing the older version or the newer version?
I believe we're, it's in the new,
It is the new. Okay, it wasn't clear because there's 2 prices in there.
yeah, I believe we're.
Okay,
I just had a couple, I'm sorry, I just had a couple of questions on number 5.
Well, do we want to pull these or do we want to ask questions about them?
I just want to ask.
Okay, so why don't we wait until we make the motion, then do that,
Okay.
second, and then we do the questions. So,
Okay.
the pull. When we take something off the consent agenda and we actually have to make it a separate thing, make it a separate motion. And it's really something that we think is gonna be maybe, maybe an issue versus what does that mean? What does this mean? Those kind of questions. So anybody want to pull something off here? All right, all in, do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Okay, thank you. Questions?
I have a question. Okay, on number 5. Can you please explain to me where those salary amounts are coming from in the first section? And I think just in reading it, I was not clear if that is the speech therapist salary, if that's all the psychologists in the district, like how many
Right,
people does it
so
come-
that's, yeah, it's the sum total of speech therapists, sum total of psychologists, nurses, etc. Basically how it works is, since we support with our services, as you can see down below, the private schools in our catchment area, how it works is, say, students from Arlington, Dover, Wappingers might all go to those private schools. We provide all of the services listed. So basically, how the structure of it works is, the total amount for those positions goes in. At the bottom, you'll see based on enrollment, the cost per student, so to speak. But then it gets billed back. So say there's 6 kids from Pine Plains enrolled in a private school within our catchment area, we're billing back 6 times that to Pine Plains.
Okay,
4 times that to whatever it is.
okay. Thank you. I was not sure how to read that. And then on number 15, do we have a replacement appointment?
So this, we do, they were already appointed in a different meeting, and so we came back and realized, oh, they were appointed, we took on a different position. And so that's why we're rescinding.
And that, would that automatically reflect that the stipend for this person will no longer go to this person, go to the replacement?
Yes,
person?
that's what that means.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I have 2 more questions. Number 16, do we not need to know the fund amounts? I'm sorry, it's not number 16 anymore, it's number 17, because it's within the district, do we not need to know the fund? It
Yeah,
says,
sorry, for 17 or something.
yes, for,
The CSEA one,
yes,
I mean CSE, sorry.
CS, yes.
What are you asking?
It says use of district funding. Do we not have a given amount? I think on previous ones, there was a given amount, but I think that might have been for out of district.
Very confused. I'm sorry, if you're on number 17,
Yes.
and where are you reading this?
So authorizing and appropriating the use of district funds necessary. I
Okay,
believe on prior ones, there was a given amount. I could be
it could be true that there'd be a given amount for a particular contract with another provider, but these are students who are placed in programs that already exist within the school district.
Okay, so that I was assuming is because within the district, probably that's why there's no set amount. I think when it's out of district, there might be an amount that is set for use of funds.
No, it's program specific and it depends on the contract between the district and either the other public school or the private school. So how it works is that private schools that are eligible schools are our New York State approved list of private schools that can accept and educate students with disabilities. So those rates are typically set by the rate setting unit. They're not within our control. But other public schools may have a tuition amount and like a related service cost, et cetera, which is why you have individual contracts with them.
Okay, thank you for explaining that to me. You're catching me fresh off a weekend of training. So and my last question is in the, oh, I don't think we got there, I'm sorry. Okay, that was all my questions for the consent agenda. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay. All right, new business financials. Do I have a motion to adopt? Do I have a second?
One second.
Questions, comments, concern?
I did have a question on that for, I just would like to know how to best read them, so. In the report, under item 10, I guess where it says check number 67347.
Are you in the public one or the administrative one?
That's the public one.
Okay, good.
The amount at the right, in the right-hand column for 794,000 and change, I just didn't recognize where that came from, so the one above was detailed, I just didn't know where it came from.
I'm sorry, Dina, I didn't.
Oh, sorry, okay, so
The
it's
first page, the 67347.
yes. And that amount all the way in the right-hand column, the 794,000 and change. Where, what is that for? Because the item above it for 1 million and change, that is, that was itemized in detail, so I just didn't know.
So it's, I believe, multiple checks. So it's 67347 through 67383. It's multiple checks totaling them. Do you see if you read across that line?
Yes,
So if you scroll all the way down, there's an itemized list of checks. And that,
So if you look at the column, the first column, you'll see the check number. And then there's a,
yes,
so if you continue to scroll, and it actually might be better if you go into the board content one. If you continue to scroll down under the board content, the executive content, and you scroll to pages, I don't know, 4, I think. You have in a complete list there of checks in that series. And it explains to you where each of them go. And then down below, you can see Lizette Hitzman, who is our claims auditor, who goes through and certifies that she has audited and certified checks, 36 checks between that series and totaling that amount.
thank you for
You're welcome.
clarifying that for me.
any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any against? So, next is discussion of an additional modified basketball coach.
Yes, so, this year, fortunately, we had a large number of 7th and 8th grade students who were signing up to play boys basketball, in excess of 30. So upon discussion between the coach, Mr. Hamel, Mr. Cabello, and, Mr. Sight, we talked about the fact that, you know, we want to sustain our programming, and part of the way you do that is you keep kids interested at the modified level. So we want to be able to, instead of making large cuts to that number, we want to be able to hold a larger roster than we typically would. Because of that and the age of the students and the fact that they're still learning their sport, we would propose adding an additional modified basketball coach to assist for safety reasons. But it wouldn't be anything additional being budgeted, because we have other sports stipends that haven't been used because sports haven't. So we have the money within the budget. It would just be a matter of, instead of spending it on this sport, spending it on modified basketball for the students.
So would it be 2 teams or 1 team, 30
It
players?
would be one team. So I did have a very frank discussion, because while I understand that modified sports should really be about building skills and excitement about the sport, et cetera, that we also have to have very clear conversations with the students that we keep on the team about what, right? If we're gonna carry a large roster, it means maybe you can't expect them being in every, single game, or a lot of times at the modified level, they'll do like an A and B squad, and they'll do 5 quarters, so to speak, or 5 periods of play, and then they'll play like the A team, then the B team, then the A team, then the B team, and then sort of that 5th period is kind of whomever from the team. So I just said whatever the decision is, however we're going to manage this, I just want everyone to be clear from the get-go that yes, you're gonna be on the team, but you may not get as much playing time, but we want you there, we want you practicing, hard work can get you more kind of thing. Because I don't want expectations to not match reality, and then, we'll be disinterested.
Does it open up additional slots beyond the number that did tryouts? I know there's more kids interested that didn't bother. They knew they assumed the team was limited.
Yeah, I don't really know that that would be the case, because there are so many already. Basketball tough, there's only 5 players on the court at a time. But this is what we're trying to do, is get as many numbers as we can where the kids are interested.
And it would be interesting to see like how they plan to do it. I guess it's not really our function, but personally, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I don't want to see 25 kids sitting on a bench and 5 kids running around on the floor. Now, if they came up with A, B, and C teams and they competed back and forth. But that again, I'm not a basketball coach. I'm not I just want to make sure if we're spending money on it, we're actually, bringing those kids along and not letting them just go to the gym.
Yep, and that's the goal, is to be able to incorporate them either into like an A, B team where they're playing the 5 periods, or actually splitting the schedule and saying, we have this many games, so we'll travel the A team on, Tuesdays, and travel the B team on the Thursday games or whatever. So I did ask them to be considerate of that, but to be upfront with the families and the students about how that would all go.
So you wouldn't travel the entire team, you won't drive an extra bus for away games.
It would need an extra bus. This is not large enough to need an extra bus, but it would be more about the fact of just being clear that it will be an A, B period within a game. Everyone travels, or we're just traveling A's, we're just traveling B.
And making sure that, if we travel with, let's say, even if we travel with 15, 15 to 15. We can't have our kids, like 5 or 10 of them that aren't gonna get to play, basically goofing around at other schools.
Right, and I think that's where the second coach really helps. And I think those frank conversations with those kids who are,
numbers 20 and 25 and just say, look, I want to keep you on the team because I think you have potential. Here are some things you need to improve on. You may not always get a lot of playing time, but we'll get you in when we can. I think honesty is really important in this situation.
I mean, we've been trying to get kids back into sports back after the pandemic and get them, I don't want to say acting normal, but back to the way things sort of used to be. So what's the rest of the board think about adding a second coach?
I'm all for it. I just wish we'd made the decision on what the interest level was, rather than.
All right, so nicely done, Caroline. The next thing on the agenda is appointing that coach. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I was like,
So where, we do have this in pre-budgeted stipend money?
Yes, because we have other stipends for sport that we haven't used that are still on the books.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Any against? All right. OC Spotlight is there for your reading entertainment, but I think we had a good review of that. All right. President's report. Just were a couple folks on the self-eval are, not quite done. Let's, I know it's Thanksgiving week, but let's see if we can't knock that out this week so we can talk about it next week.
Harry,
Or-
I got an email saying I didn't complete mine, but I did complete it. Is that just a general email everyone gets?
That tool is weird because if you don't put a comment in it, it doesn't mark that thing as complete. So even if you put NA or, X or something in there and save that comment, then it'll mark it as complete. That's, I looked at yours. Actually, I think there's a couple of you that have just didn't put comments in there. Don't know why they insist on that, but so if you could just either that or I can just force it close. So if you're done, if you're done with it, just let me know and I'll kill it. I mean, I'll mark it as complete.
Thank you.
All right. That was, I think that was all I had. Anything, Chris?
No, other than have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, everybody. All right.
So, good evening. I have a couple of personnel updates. We had our supervisor digital and data privacy interviews today. And we will have follow-up interviews once your return from Thanksgiving break, with some promising candidates. So we're pretty excited about that. We have completed and submitted our basic educational data systems or BEDS report. It's an annual report. With some survey items just about who works in the district, how many students, things like how many books do we have in our libraries. So lots of, very tiny data points that go up to this date. It has to do with sort of where our funding is determined, et cetera. So there is one day in October called BEDS Day. And it's like a standard, right? Because all of our enrollment things fluctuate throughout the year, students move, et cetera. So they use BEDS Day as the sort of equalizing day. So everyone from the state puts their numbers in as of that day, and that's where funding and all sorts of different decisions are determined based on those numbers. So that has been completed for this school year and submitted. There's 4 surveys, one for each building, and then there's a district-wide survey, and they've all been entered into the state portal. So we've had senior typist interviews last week, and there will be a follow-up interview for that department as well. So some exciting things going there. As I had mentioned in the past, we have received from Dutchess Community College verification and confirmation that they will be charging tuition starting in the fall. Our advocacy efforts will not end with that letter. So we will continue to advocate, but we will also be sending a letter out in the next coming weeks to let our families know that this is what it looks like it's going to be, at least at this present point. What we know is that at this current moment, it would be $64 per credit. So about $200 per course for a 3-credit course, and just a little bit more than that for a 4-credit course. For example, our GCC bio actually ends up being an 8-credit course because it is a fall semester and a spring semester, 4 credits. So just to give you some context, what we do not know is what the exact figures will be in the fall, because it's basically 1/3 of GCC tuition. So whatever their tuition increases are, our students will be required to pay 1/3 of that tuition. So we're still awaiting what those numbers will look like, but we do anticipate that at least at this present moment, there is a plan to charge students tuition. So we will be informing our community of that, because as students prepare in the coming months to make course selections for next year, they need to know what they're agreeing to, right? Families need to know, and I feel like the sooner we can get that information out there, the sooner families can start to prepare. We have brought up concerns about our students who receive free and reduced lunch, which is, based on income need. And we are waiting to hear back as to what concessions Dutchess will make for those students. As of right now, it's going to be painting with one brush, everyone's going to pay 1/3. So we are trying to work and try and support students, because we want everyone to have opportunity there, but I will continue to keep the board and the community updated as I have more.
What are the other districts? I mean, assuming this goes through, assuming they pass off the cost to the district, but the parents, really.
Correct.
What are the other districts doing? Just basically, so we can't do anything about it. I mean, our parents to call and yell and complain, but is anybody looking at, I don't know.
So as of right now, I know some districts, and we have a meeting scheduled for when we return from Thanksgiving break to discuss this further as a county superintendent. I know some districts are planning on having folks attend the Dutchess Community College board meeting. There's a bunch of different advocacy efforts that are bubbling up. There is a coordinated effort on the part of the superintendent. We have a letter writing and phone call making advocacy thing going right now. We've reached out, like I said, to local politicians. We've reached out to the State Board of Regents, the commissioner. So we are reaching out to anyone that we believe will listen to us at this point, and trying to make the case. I had mentioned last meeting that I also met with a representative for college and high school, it was called. It's a national organization that is actually studying this exact topic right now of dual enrollment. One of the things Jason mentioned a P-TECH program. So what that is and how that differs is that it's part of a program that benefits the school community. And that sort of differentiates the ability to pay as a school district versus individualized credits for individualized courses, as Dutchess is right now, would not allow us to pay, because that is actually individual students benefiting from public funds essentially. So there's differentiation. Bard has an early college program, for example, that they do things for the entire school community. And so because of those program structures, that makes it very different, right? So that makes it an opportunity where the school can partner with that college. Currently, Dutchess is just basically saying this is what the tuition is going to be. So we're advocating in multiple different directions to try and see how we can partner with them differently. to make it more beneficial to the school-wide, program, but then also, how we can maybe create some, different funding opportunities for students who are not gonna be able to.
Round figure, if it happened like now, this semester. What would our bill, what would the bill that we could hand to our parents look like? Is it $2,000 for a semester? Is it 10,000?
So it's going to depend on, how many credits they're taking. So like I said, if your child was enrolled in I need my calculator, because I didn't take that DCC math class. If your child is enrolled in the DCC bio class, it's gonna be $512 for the 8 credit.
And
Currently it's 0.
about how many kids we have?
So we have 96 enrollments. And that could be from anywhere from a 3 credit course up until an 8.
If our enrollment drops, will we lose the ability to run some of these courses?
Yeah, and what's even trickier, to be quite honest with you, David, is that, because we're so small, it's very difficult for us to run, say, an advanced Spanish course and a DCC Spanish, course, right? So it's not just that we wouldn't be able to run the DCC class. If we have low numbers in DCC, we might also have low numbers in that local class. So then we have to make really tough decisions.
But they also wouldn't get college credit for it, right?
Well,
If we
correct.
did it.
Well, I'd like to say that, explain to the parents that this is not a statewide, state university, set steadfast rule. This is being done by individual community colleges. Dutchess Community College happens to be the one that affects us here. And they just popped up with this, possibly because their enrollment's down. There's numerous reasons for that. But that should not be the problem of the public school student, nor the problem of the public school parent. The state university system with the community colleges, such as Dutchess, every parent pays out of their taxes toward Dutchess Community College. We as a school board, as a group of school boards and superintendents need to contact our county legislature, as well as our, right after the new year, our state officials, and explain that Dutchess Community College can't unilaterally just decide that they're going to charge public school students. We talk about the public schools losing people to the private schools. Well, here's another reason. If they're going to have to pay anyway, well, you might as well go to a private school. This is the public schools. There appears to be no procedure for Dutchess Community College to exempt people that are below the poverty line, that are on food stamps. There's a whole free lunches. There's a whole set of procedures that doesn't appear to be looked through or even considered by the leadership of Dutchess Community College. And I, as a taxpayer in this county, am not happy with the Dutchess Community College and their cavalier attitude toward the parents and students of this particular district. And I will quote Winston Churchill that this shall not stand, and I'm sure this board will do everything in its power to make sure that happens.
When does DCC have their board meeting?
I believe the next one is December.
September?
December.
Would parents pay directly to DCC or through the school district?
So typically speaking, with other private institutions, it's one check is written by the school.
So then there's no option to fill out a FAFSA form.
So that's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up. High school students are actually not eligible for financial aid. So that's another concern over and above this, like, our students who participate in the Syracuse University Advanced project, the super project for forensics. there is actually, I don't know if it's a grant or what, but Syracuse actually has a structure where students can apply for financial aid from Syracuse. So it's not like the federal financial aid, but the actual university helps to support students in that way. So, it's not free, but it's a monthly, tuition fee.
Right.
So, we have continued our observations, in various buildings. I think one of the things that I'm really enjoying is hearing the ongoing conversations. As you know, our, APPR, or annual performance review for the last couple of years has been waived, due to COVID. So getting back into this process and, sort of calibrating it, I think has probably been, one of the most joyful things is just having time to talk about instruction. So I really enjoy that. And I think it's exciting because we're really doing a lot of work on inter-rater reliability. So no matter which administrator walks into your room to do your observation, it will be from a similar lens. Like I had said, calibrate that experience. So I want to thank publicly Joe Carbone and his team of folks who worked together with him to do our Veterans Day celebration here. I'm not sure if you were in attendance, but it was really lovely. We had probably about 20 local veterans who were here. Moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandpas, grandmas, whomever, that were here. They were sharing their story. First, we came into the cafeteria here and we were able to sit around, have breakfast. The students were able to ask questions directly to the veterans. And then we were able to go into the auditorium. We had some pre-selected questions by grade level that students were able to ask. And then they were answered in a larger forum. So I think that was really great. It was, it was, I think, very eye-opening for some of our students to hear those experiences. And just realize that these are real people from our community, maybe someone you would see in the grocery store and might know from the town, but had no idea had this. So that was pretty cool for them. And Joe Carbone does it every year. And he does such a great job, from decorations to food preparation and the invitations, everything. So I just wanted to say thank you. Someone else is also doing a really great job, Samantha Holdsworth. She is doing an awesome job of bringing in opportunities for students to learn about things outside of academics. So she is bringing in NAMI, which is the National Organization for Mental Wellness, and she is on December 1st. There will be a presentation about ending the silence, so suicide prevention and education for students. And then she has a money management program for the 8th grade students. And also, one of the things that she is doing is she is looking to push out other forums in which students are having this type of support. So one of the things that she is going to be visiting is our Kindness Club that's working with Mrs. Culver. They just made Thanksgiving placemats for the local seniors, and also working with some Wonderbots, I believe they were called, that they were, it's all about like self-esteem and character and that kind of thing. So she's doing a great job. She has some support from some of the aides down at Alden for this after-school opportunity for students. So it's really great work. I know that Elliot and Ken had met with the Transportation Advisory, also with Chris Brill from Dover to review the bid specifications for our transportation bid. I believe there were 4 different busing companies that were in attendance at that time to ask questions and gain deeper understanding so that they can prepare a bid if they should choose. We have hired a custodial position, as you may remember, that we had talked about with food services really needing some support with lifting, moving, boxing, unboxing, that kind of thing. So we have a custodial position that will be a full-time custodian, but part of their primary role will be to support food services in that way. So we're hoping that that will help with efficiency and just really sustaining of the food service program, because that is a really hard thing for those ladies to be doing. So that will be extremely helpful. We have just agreed to rent the new postage machine. And we have two construction manager bid and a financial advisor bid. I believe the financial advisor bid was due on the 18th. Both were due on the 18th. So at this point, for any of the decisions that need to be made for the construction manager, we'll need to talk about the proposal for an interview process. If you will remember, selecting the architect, I believe it was, there were a couple of folks from the facilities committee, right, that had interviewed them, and then we created a process. So we'll need to have a discussion about how we want to do that. So Elliot, I don't know if you have any thoughts on what you wanted to see, or maybe.
Right, so I think at the last board meeting, we talked about doing a similar process with the construction manager. Bid, we have 5 bidders for that contract. We have 3 bidders of interest for the financial advisor. Last board meeting, the board was not sure how to proceed with that. We have a combined facility subcommittee that makes sense to do construction things. There was some discussion about perhaps leveraging the audit committee, there was some other thoughts about maybe creating that committee just purposely swaying the financial advisors. Again, there's 3 firms involved, so we're also just decide to do 3 session as a full board, or assigning an existing committee with creative committee to increase rate and maybe eliminate 1. Excuse me. Options. Something that's
Any idea of how long these will take? For how long we'll give them to do their presentation? I mean, the other ones, how many did we interview that day? But it took all day.
We had 8 architectural firms. We narrowed it to 2 finalists.
Right,
And
but
so
those 8, it took
entire day.
basically an entire day.
It was an entire day.
So I'm wondering if presentations from these groups will be as long. And that was pretty extensive, but are they gonna do the same thing with me?
It all depends. I mean, there's different aspects to both. They're both kind of niche things, right? And so, once the board decides how to proceed, I can share the electronic proposals out with each committee. I am working in my office to kind of summarize the financial piece of the bids, so we can look out to apples, this fee versus this fee. We have 3 firms, so we're gonna put some of that together to help make it a little easier to screen through. But it's really your call in terms of how involved the board wants to be versus delegating to a subset.
Yeah. Well, if it's 3 of them, we're gonna narrow it down to 2 and have the board make it, so we're really gonna be doing it twice, right?
I think,
Minus 1.
I think if they're willing, I think we bring all 3, and I think from looking at
Right.
the first perspective, each firm brings something specific to the table. So I think they're all going to flavor, if you will. So it's you each one.
I mean, I don't see why you do it twice. I mean, you gotta take 3, narrow it to 2, and then you make the 2 go through it, make us go through it. I mean, it would just be as easy to have all 3.
And the 5, I'm not against doing it again the way we did it before. Then narrow it down to 2,
You do that.
and that's up to everyone else that was on the committee. Not sure if everyone still was on the,
It was, I believe, you, Shannon, and Tim.
And what time frame are we looking at?
It's entirely up to you, because you can schedule these as,
Next
you know, we can do this virtually. Because of where they're coming from, with the screening interviews, and then do them in person on the 20th. We might be a little tight to do it on the 6th. Pre-screening and have them prepare to come in on the 6th, but we can do the 20th.
let's go over the next couple of weeks. You want.
Of December, so I'm talking December.
I mean, if we do a December 20th, that thing, whatever the second December meeting is, if we do that, then the board could effectively award contract when we get back in January and start on either side, leading in.
I mean, personally, I think it would be a great idea to have it, at least the folks picked out, so we can get started in the, first thing of the year. Do you think that's too much on the committee?
Would it be the facilities committee doing both?
No, the 5, and then the 3 come in front of
The
us.
3 would just come to us.
Okay.
Or wants to all three financial advisor firms in public session, I can just email me contacts and have them prepare to commit and discussion.
But we did give them time limit the last time.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell them, you can actually, and once you review the proposals, you may ask for specifics, like we're doing a capital one. So you may ask
I
for
understand.
specifics.
I'm just wondering, so we have a better idea, is it an hour per, I don't expect an answer now, but, you know, so when we schedule, we know it's gonna be a full day. That's,
I think for the five, we do a half day, we give them 30 minutes, 40 minutes each, so it should be 30 is a little tight. But they're gonna present to us, they like to talk.
Yeah.
But I would say, 35, 40 minutes would be realistic. Per firm, so 3, 4 hours only.
That's before the 6th meeting, before the December 6th meeting.
It doesn't have to be, but if you wanted to, and again, I don't know if the board wants to have 2 construction management firms and 3 financial advisors all presenting in public session on the 20th, right before the holidays, it's. Might be a long night. You know. At this point, we might be able to do the financial one on the 6th, if we're not doing the first round, they have 2 weeks to prepare.
yeah, I was gonna say. they love to do
And
that.
then we can do the first round in that time period for construction managers and bring those finalists. Keep saying.
Yeah, so the 6th is. So maybe the week of the 12th, we can interview the other ones. And then they come the 20th. Potentially,
On the 6th, we're gonna bring in those friends.
I would think if you want to bring the financial advisor, I can reach out to them tonight. Give them a heads up.
Yeah, I think we should do that just to get, give ourselves a little breathing room. We get that one taken care of. And then we've got 2 board meetings after that, right?
it's 6th.
Or a board
Do you
meeting,
have a
but
lot on the agenda for the 6th?
I believe we're going to invite our athletes who have gone to the state tournament on the 6th, but I mean, that's not usually a very long time.
yeah,
We could just figure out logistics. Like, through email.
Okay, so we're good with that? All right, so I did want to just put it out to the community again that we have our strategic planning input survey on our website. We did get some feedback that the JAM board, though we thought it was exciting in a different way, to collect information. As predicted, there was some issues with some of the comments getting deleted inadvertently, so we had to take it down. Amy was helpful in creating a Google form, which I think people are a little bit more used to at this point, and sent it back. So it is out there. We were able to recapture the comments that were lost, but in a effort to not have further confusion, we just sent out the old standard Google form. We had coffee with the cabinet on November 17th. We had just a couple of folks in attendance. But we did get some really great input that we were able to then go back and share with some of the folks that we had in team, and just some little nuggets of information to continue our thinking around, and maybe create some ways to improve. We did get some feedback, but that wasn't the most convenient time for families. So, I do want to say publicly that we have afternoon meetings that meet right after the school day. We have evening opportunities to engage the community. And sort of the one time that we did not have covered for folks that maybe were available was the morning time. But we have received feedback that it's not really a great time. So we'll rethink it. We're just, doing best we can to try and give folks an opportunity to come talk, ask questions, give feedback. So we'll continue to rethink that, try and work something that is more convenient to engage as many people. I did want to publicly congratulate our girls soccer team. They lost in the semifinal game to the team that ended up being the state champions. So it was a tough loss, but I think they had a deserved opponent. So, they made a great run and, you know, they had a great experience throughout the season. We also had our cross-country runner, Dylan Vasquez. He is a freshman this year, so I'm sure he will be returning to the state tournament in years to come. Super talented athlete. He did really well, but he unfortunately, did not come home with the medal either, but that's okay. But he gave an amazing season, and lots to be proud of for all of our student athletes. We had parent teacher conferences this past week. It was great to see our families back in the building. I know in the past couple of years, a lot of that stuff was done virtually, so it was nice to see folks in and out of the building, meeting the teachers. Overall, lots of positive feedback. So we're happy to be hearing that. In a fundraiser aspect and also something for convenience, on December 14th, you will be having Parents Night Out. So you can drop your kiddos off and go tend to whatever winter shopping, et cetera, that you might need to do. So from 3:30 to 6:30, Alicia and some volunteers will be just providing some fun activities for students to do while their parents tend to whatever winter responsibilities they might have. We also will enjoy some caroling by our second graders during the Parade of Lights. They will be stationed over by the tribute gardens on the 2nd, so you can go and catch some of that. Our 5th grade students went to Howe Caverns on Friday on a field trip. We have some exciting developments. Our musical has begun, so they've been practicing, preparing for Seussical, the musical in March. So our Walden students are preparing for that. And the winter concerts are coming together, so you can expect to hear more information from individual buildings. And I do also want to mention that our Walden folks did bagels for our bus drivers. So recognizing our bus drivers and just giving them a little nod and some cheer with the bagel. So that was very nice. And I wanted to also say that with the help of Amy Watkins, we have received approvals on our ESSA grants. Which these are grants that are for various different reasons. Our title grants, Title I is based on income and need. So 3 of our schools actually qualify. Our Elm Drive, Golden Place, and Middle School all qualify for Title I funds to support socioeconomically disadvantaged folks. Our Title II grants are targeted typically towards professional development. We have Title III grants. Our Title III grant is actually tied into a consortium from Dutch Associates, and that's targeting language development for English language learners. And then our Title IV grant, there's a couple of different things that we can use it for. We typically use a portion of it for STEAM education and a portion of it for well-rounded college search. So that's where our money typically goes for those 4 grants. And then there is a portion of it that we share with private school. We're required to share it. So Title I private school that has number of students, even if they're outside of our catchment area, and the Title II, 3, and 4 are only for eligible schools within the district that may have our students or we service them part of our population. So that is an enormous undertaking. It was prepared by the previous superintendent with some modifications by Amy, and we just got to this past week that it was. So that's a lot of it. And that is my report for the evening.
Very good. Any questions?
I was curious, how many people, I know the strategic planning survey, the deadline's tonight, right?
Correct.
Do you know how many respondents
I do not.
you've received so far?
7.
Are you serious?
A birdie just told me 7.
7.
Yes.
I see that.
It was pretty extensive, but necessary. I'm just saying, I think that's probably what. When I went through the whole thing, and it's a lot. It was,
And
You
you've
know.
been a part of the process.
no, I understand.
Right.
That's a lot more.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just saying,
really-
you know, if you start filling it out, I don't know if we can capture if they don't complete it or submit it.
You wasn't required that they have to do for every question.
No, it's, would still be great.
I was wondering the same thing. It doesn't say, I mean, it's too late now, but. For the police groups. Still Belongs
So
to
you're the
Ray.
one writing all those long paragraphs, Crystal Bell?
One was me. Imagine. I'm sure it's not anonymous, or is it? Yeah?
Yeah, well,
Okay, good man.
mean-
Now it's all good. Oh, well, now I'll do it. No, you do it.
I mean, the other hand is,
I was just
it's up to
wondering.
us to
Yeah.
make this real. I mean, in the past, this has been treated like, you know, it's just, oh, well, let's make some cool charts and put them on, stick them up on top of the shelf. It's really on us to make sure that they see what the results are, whether they participate or not. See the results and see us tying what we're investing money in based on that. I mean, now it's like the rubber hits the road for us. But, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to.
Oh, it's
I just-
okay. I was just thinking, for the future, if there's a lengthy questionnaire. If it's possible to say, like, if the parents, when I started, I answered the first question. And then I scrolled and I said, oh my goodness, I better shorten things, or I bet, I need more time. But I was already invested, so I didn't want to quit, right? But is there a way to?
And I don't know the answer to that. So, can you say how you will work in the middle?
I don't think you can.
I can't see it from the management, but I think I can go back and look at it. There is an option to allow a person to go back and look at edits.
Okay.
So that, I don't know if that was checked, but I can check.
Right, so you can submit it and then go back in and post.
Yeah, and if they didn't go back and finish, at least get.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Anything else? Yes.
I will be presenting on special education tonight. So I gave a similar, slightly different presentation to both of our special education staff, at secondary and elementary level. So this is just an overview of what the presentation will cover. Our as a district here, our process, and then just put out the data. So, yes, of it. All right, here is myself. I'm Caroline, as mentioned earlier. As Paige has, started taking on her new role in the office, we accepted interviews to fill that position. So we will consider that person here once we are down to that job. Looking at our building, teacher-wise, at Elm Drive, we currently have 4 special education teachers, 4 also at Alden Place, 6 teachers at our middle school, and then 5 at the second level. Here's a breakdown of those teachers in their buildings. And I just want to note also that Kelly is our AIS teacher down at Elm Drive. She is also operating as a special education teacher for one of our students that is based at Dutchess Day. That requires special education services. They are looking at our school psychologists. We have our 4 school psychologists, Brendan Steiner, China Colbert, Jennifer Overdock, and Mark Gravity. In their respective buildings, they obviously feel the students in the building that they're in, but each of them also has a responsibility to students out of district as well. So just for your knowledge, Brendan Steiner covers our out of district students, so the students that we place out of district based on need. Funding covers our placed students, so any students that attend the district school or up to late are some examples. As the district of location, we are responsible for providing the special education services to the students, conducting the meetings, etc. Jennifer Fulda handles all of the students, into active fees. Home, and then on Friday, in addition to, all of the students at the high school, we also have all our alternative physical feedback students. Our school counselors, Moni's our middle school counselor, handling, so all of the students at the middle school. Warren Prince and Tom Chansky are our high school counselors, splitting their caseload up there and alphabetically that. Working, they work very well in conjunction with their building principals and school psychologists in order to support all of their students. All right, our additional support staff, we have our two pathologists, Lauren Kelly and Kimberly McCann. Danielle Topar is our contractor out, she's our occupational assistant. Ellie Astrid is our contracted out physical therapist. And then Danielle Venice is the social worker that is here, so now, as we get into our student population, we currently have, that is our responsibility, 200 students specified. That does not mean that they all are eligible students, but they are our responsibility. So that breakdown is here. So that number obviously includes our students that are at Drive, all the place, the middle school, the high school, but also our CPS. Not just in our school here, but also just in that live in Millbrook that may not attend our school. Our out of district students, our principal place students, and our students that are. So as we go down and we look more specifically at our students that we have in our walls here. At Elm Drive, we present 32 students. When we look at that number a little bit more broken down, 19 of those students are in an integrated teaching classroom, whether that be kindergarten, first, second grade level. And then 13 of those 32 students solely have related services. So things like speech, OT, things like that. When we look at our Alden Place number, we have 23 students currently classified at Alden Place. 22 of them are in an integrated co-teaching in some capacity, so whether that be for reading, writing, math, science, studies. Of the 22, 6 of them are also at times within our special setting there. That is a 15-1 setting, so up to 15 students and 1 teacher. And that is just a more restrictive program for those students that require a greater need in areas of reading, writing, and math, based on their need. And then we have 1 student to make up that total 23 that has related, just a related need. When we look for our middle school, we have a total of 35 students here at the middle school. 33 of those are in the integrated co-teaching classroom. 9 of those students are within our special class for either, again, reading, writing, or math support. 10 of our 35 total students have a resource room setting. So again, that is another layer of support in which the students work in groups of 5 students to 1 teacher ratio to receive more support and work towards their goals that are on their IEP. And then 2 of our students total at the middle school do not have necessarily academic needs, but are related to the students, so either receiving teacher. And then as we look to our high school, we have a total of 40 students classified at our high school level. 38 of those are in an integrated co-teaching program. 27 of those students also have a resource room program. And then we have 2 students that just received related. Looking at our process, the one thing, as I was talking about all those different programs that our students are in, we operate as we make these decisions on the continuum of services. And so our job as a school, teachers, and then ultimately the committee of special education, where we're making these decisions, we operate under placing students in their least restrictive environment. And so we want to always ensure that we are building in our students a level of independence. And yes, every kid benefits from lots of things, but we want to make sure that we're actually meeting them where they are and providing them with what they need in order to be successful and access the curriculum. And so obviously all of our students start out at that general education level. And then we can move up to those students that, as I said before, maybe just need some support in the related service area, whether that be counseling, speech, occupational therapy, things like that. Then as we move up the ladder, we see that we get into more restrictive environments. Special class being the kind of most restrictive environment we have here in the district. And then also at our middle school, as you know, we do have our 811 class that is a little more restricted than that. And then we get to our placements where, again, we're choosing to place students out of district because their need is higher than what we can currently provide. Then so SMART goals are something that we talk with not just our special education teachers about, we talk kind of about this with everyone creating SMART goals, but in the special education world, this is something that our special education teachers do when they are creating, and our service providers, when they are creating goals for the students on their caseload, and putting those goals onto an IEP. We want to ensure that goals that we're giving students to accomplish are specific, they're measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. We want to make sure we're really leveraging the highest need at that. Yes, a student could need, a multitude of strategies, a multitude of things they need to do in order to accomplish, their grade level standards. But a struggling student, we want to ensure we're hitting that highest leverage goal. So, if a student is a struggling leader, we're never going to get to those higher level thinking questions with them if we can't, they can't decode the words that are on the page in front of them. So we want to make sure that we're doing. And then moving up to more difficult goals as they are. So now as we get into data is a big thing. We are coming together with CSE, in special education, to make these decisions for students for what their placement is going to be, what their goals are going to sound like. And so if you are in a CSE meeting, types of data that you should expect to see are listed right here. So we have anecdotal classroom data, so it's the teacher being able to share how the student performed in the classroom day to day, throughout their school day, any sort of intervention data. So any interventions that we are doing with our students, we want to ensure that we're presenting that data at a meeting to show a student is struggling with an area. These are the things that we're doing with them, and this is the outcome. IXL, all of our students from K all the way up to 12 complete their IXL in both ELA and math, and these have really good data points to show where students are. At times, whether it is the initial eligibility meeting for special education, or we are evaluating the student, which occurs every 3 years. We have those results of their evaluation data. And then attendance is something also that we want to ensure that we're discussing at a CSE meeting. This is relevant because if the student is not attending school for whatever the reason may be, it's hard at times for us to make decisions that a student is struggling because they have an area of deficit versus they haven't learned the information. But then on the other side of that, if a student is attending school every day and you're working extremely hard and you're still continuing to struggle, we need to look deeper and find why that's struggling. And then the two at the bottom that are not highlighted with white: classroom grades, reading level, dry words, SRI. SRI stands for Scholastic Reading Inventory. These are things that you may not see at every meeting because they're a little bit more personalized based on the level of your student. So at our middle and high school level, we have classes, different classroom grades for science, math, etc. At our elementary level, we assess our students on a reading level. We have those high frequency words that are assessed on different things like that. So those are just some differences that you'll see based on the level of your student. who is responsible for presenting the various data points at a CSD meeting. As you'll see in the middle, the biggest person involved is the case manager, who's going to be a special education. Our related service providers have to present on their data points as your school psychologist. But that case manager is going to be the person that knows that student inside and out. And then as we look to what the role of a case manager is, I kind of explained this to our teachers when I presented this to them, that within the school day, you are the biggest advocate for that student. You need to know them inside and out, and then these are just the types of roles and responsibilities that they have as kind of where we are with special education, here.
I do have a question. Did you do a breakdown or if you know the answer off the top of your head between how many 504 we have?
I could definitely get you that number. This presentation didn't include the 504 students. 504 is students, general education students that just need whatever type of layer of work based on a real or suspected disability. But I definitely can get that number out to you.
All right, yeah, thank you.
So what's your message to the board? I mean, I understand, I mean, this sort of tells us the process and, you know, the different levels of it. But how are we doing in Millburn? I mean, is all this stuff that you've talked about a well-oiled machine? Or are we sort of trying to get here? What's your message to us?
So I think overall, we are doing pretty well with this. As I said, I did just give a very similar presentation to our secondary and elementary staffs to go over all of this information. It had a little bit more in depth of teacher specific responsibilities in that as well, to review those nuances, I guess I would say. But I do think that we are at a place where, you know, we are providing this level of instruction to our students. We are identifying students as we are seeing them kind of come up, whether it is a student already classified needing more support or doing waiting support and saying, you know, we can start to move towards that route of classification. And then I think that the biggest piece that we're continuing to work on, and I would say not just in special education, but really working on owning that data and bringing data to our instruction.
I would just add to that, I think that the systems that each of the buildings are refining on MPSS really is pairing with this. So how are we're not just jumping to classification as much as what are we doing at the tier 1 level within the classroom? How are we supporting teachers to work through interventions that are tier 1 interventions so that the answer isn't always when they must need special education first. So we're really trying to make this more of a dialogue that we're having with our staff and our buildings, so that they're aware of what's available.
But that process of, you know, that process of really reviewing the student, really reviewing their need, really defining versus I think they might, are we, I mean, because to be honest, when we see the numbers, or at least when I see the numbers, I sort of go, wow, that's a lot. And I can't, and then, but then we start talking about Cardinal Hayes and those things, and
Right.
you sort of, you get it, but it's still that, so what I'm getting to is, are we there? Like, we're, you know, like I said, a well-oiled machine, we know exactly, you know, how to classify, we know the evidence that's gonna be involved in that, or are we still sort of transitioning from what would you like to, you know, to this is what you really need?
So I can definitely speak to, when I am chairing meetings, and working with teachers and service providers in that regard. The conversation always comes back to the data, what data do you have to prove that this student needs this level of support? And again, I think also really having conversations with families additionally that, you know, we want to make sure we're fostering this level of independence in our students also. We can, you know, as I said before, we can say, you know, myself, Amy, Elliot, we all benefit from the same thing. It's a kind of conversation we have when we're talking about equity too, I think. But what I need in order to be successful may be very different from what Amy or Elliot need. And so making that a little bit more clear, I think, to parents, teachers, and, you know, students even at an appropriate level, right? Having those conversations with our students in middle school. I know our teachers do a good job of talking to their students about advocating for themselves and building those self-advocacy skills. And so that's definitely something that we're kind of moving forward in that direction. I've definitely sat on some meetings where we invite the student in, even at a middle school level, and say, hey, why don't you come in and advocate for yourself? There's no reason that a remote adult needs to be making decisions for you all the time. We're the ones sitting in the classroom, we're the ones getting this instruction, so what do you feel?
I guess I have a couple questions. When, before I was on board, I was on one of the reentry teams going back, during lockdown, special ed, and I remember asking, how many students do we serve this, you know, in special ed? And I think I remember that number being around 1/3. Does that seem?
So I would say that our number,
Well, I know, I mean, is that?
well,
I
yeah,
mean,
so our
now-
number is
now we're-
probably about 130 in district. So
Okay,
again,
okay.
that
Okay,
200 number includes all the students at Cardinal Hayes,
Okay.
at Dutchess Day, Upton Lee, students that we have to think other districts, things like that. So that number is bigger, just to kind of show you the scope of what our special ed office, or teacher, or what they call it, the department is calling for.
Oh.
Because a student that lives in Arlington that attends Dutchess Day, you're still responsible for having their meeting. And providing a special education teacher for their meeting, providing psychologists for their meeting, all those necessary participants. It is our responsibility, a general education teacher, we have to pull, you know, a second grade general education teacher to have those meetings. So it's just kind of show that scope of responsibility is not just within the four walls of the church.
I was thinking we had increased from 130
No, no,
to
no.
200,
No.
just. And that wouldn't have surprised me either.
No, but
Just to
well,
the-
and we're also trying not to fall into that trap, so to speak, like, so we've had this pandemic, we have students who may very well be behind, but as Alex alluded to before, they've not been able to benefit from instruction, right? Some of those students weren't as diligent in their attendance throughout the pandemic period. So what we really need to be able to do is hone in on, is this an area of deficit and a disability, or is this the byproduct of poor attendance during the pandemic, right? But the one thing that I think Alex has said, and I will reiterate, is once a student is placed within our catchment area by their parent, they become our responsibility for all of these services. So I think sometimes we forget, right, how large the actual responsibility and scope of the special education program. And I said a couple of times last year, even our responsibilities to our preschool, typically that has been responsibility of the county. More and more, the county does not have evaluative services and evaluators that are available. So it falls on our evaluators. They also don't have programming that's available. So in some cases, if it's a related service that we can provide because we have the staffing, that's falling on our speech therapists, or counseling falling on our psychologists. So even though this role is sort of staying typical in numbers, the actual workload has increased.
Right, right. And similar to Howard's question, I know Howard asked about the number of children with 504 plans. You probably don't have this number right now, you might. Would you be able to get the number of children needing AIS services,
Yeah,
but
it's
that
42.
do not have an IEP?
It's 42 in Elm and Alden. I don't have the number of 42 and 42. Ironically, it's the same number. I don't know why. 42 and 42 in Elm and Alden. I don't have the numbers in the middle school. off the top of my
And so would some of those 42 also have a 504 or IEP, or they are general?
Yeah,
They're not,
typically not.
right,
Yeah, typically
Okay.
not.
right, so that just highlights, well, there's 32 at Elm. With IEPs, but an additional 42 really still need.
Right, and I think
Sure.
that is more realistically related to those students are
Yes.
not yet approaching grade level, and some of that is more to do with the pandemic than our special education numbers, because if those students need the support but don't necessarily have a disability, they're going to be caught in that AIS.
And then is there some catchment at middle and high, is it called AIS or is there something different?
Yeah, so there's multiple different things. Some of it is an assigned with period. But the way it's structured is different, and I just had to report on the numbers for Elm and Alden for Dead. That's why I was.
Very impressive.
Yeah, I just haven't done.
Thank you.
One of the things, and this was years ago. But, and I know it's very complicated communicating. Do they need to know? Don't they need to know? The student has an IEP, the student has. How do you think we're doing on making sure that everyone that needs to know sort of knows,
That needs to know that a student.
like,
Has
that,
an
yes,
IEP that
and,
you're
and what are the specifics and,
So part of the role of the case manager at the beginning of every school year when they're preparing caseload, and things kind of change, students in 11th grade. They have to ensure that every student, every teacher, working with each student on their caseload. They sit down with them, go over their IEP, and so that can be everyone from, other teachers that see them, including special area teachers, so our aides or monitors that interact with the student, and then we house those documents. So the case manager sits down with all of the people, goes over the IEP, the accommodations, modifications of those students, and they sign off saying they have reviewed this, they are aware of this information, and then people documents, and then just similarly for 504 students, our school counselors are responsible for that. So Kelly Mahoney, Tom Shanky, and Warren Prince, do that with all of the 504 students.
so somebody, if a teacher or whoever. Has to know, somewhere there's they've been told, check, sign.
Yep.
Okay.
And Howard, to answer your question, district-wide, there's 93 students.
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thanks. Paul. Okay. All right, next is old business, second reading of the 8,000 series policies. Do I have a motion to adopt? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
We want to talk about the parking section.
Sorry,
Do we want to talk about the parking section?
Yeah.
yes,
Specifically number 2 in the parking section, just making sure we're all in alignment on the initial eligibility and what they need to maintain the key eligibility for funding.
Which page are we on?
16.
16. Thank you.
I suggest you start at the beginning of the junior year, which I didn't think was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And carry it through.
I think that
What, what's in, I mean, this is in place right now. Correct?
No, prior to the edit is what's in place for now. Pretty similar to this, it just didn't clearly lay out some of the.
So if I'm a 12th grader and I got a parking permit a week ago, what would I have been told?
That they have to attend the Dutchess County teen driving seminar, and I'm pretty sure for infractions of the code of conduct now, as per the code of conduct, one of the consequences is to remove the parking permit, but to put it in policy, sort of shores up that entire thing.
And so, to have received for eligibility,
Right, you have to be a licensed driver, you have to attend the teen driving seminar.
Right. Is there any eligibility, a decline in eligibility based on any prior infraction?
No,
Okay,
I don't think.
so I'm wondering, I'm just thinking here. Do we have to have an additional consequence for suspension? If someone's suspended,
Right, so I think that the bigger thing with the suspension. For things that also include driving, I think that's really important. Like leaving campus without authorization, if your car makes that easier for you,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there needs to be an additional. consequence
Right.
For that.
right,
And I just think we need to go back to the thought that this is a privilege, right? You don't have to let them park on campus at all. So if that's another layer that encourages positive behavior on campus, I kind of think it's important.
then I think we need a time frame, right? Makes sense if you're violating the provisions of the policy of leaving school and your car makes it easier. But if you're suspended for something, just want to make sure we're not. There's already a consequence for behavior and it's a suspension if it's not. Your example, there was a functional relationship there, right? But if there's not a functional relationship.
Well, it goes back to the thought that this is a privilege.
Right.
So I guess we need to decide
Fun and time.
who should be entitled to have
Right.
privileges that aren't required for us to provide, right? So if student athletes don't behave, they don't necessarily have to be allowed to play sports, right? So this is, a discussion for the board, but I think it's important for kids to understand that if you want to have privileges, that comes with responsibility, and sometimes it comes with added responsibility.
We really just have to decide, if we look back, would it be the start of the junior year for it, or would it be the start of the senior year?
That's pretty. Overly restricted.
Well, you're not doing anything except saying that, I mean, we don't have to say that we qualify for the whole senior year either.
But the majority of students don't get.
I'd be fine saying within the previous calendar or something. previous year.
Or 6 months or semester, or, yeah,
There needs to be some time.
Yeah.
to find
there
out.
needs to be a time frame,
I
right?
mean, if you're
Or
a junior, I'm sure you haven't mentioned getting a parking permit. It's
Right.
important to you, so I think you could be.
Even though only 50% of people today want their
Right,
license or have their
right.
license, but those that do, yeah. It's,
I think
forward
only
thinking.
50% of students. Cause I can tell you this parking stuff is a big deal.
Yeah. Or you could have a. Not worry about timeframes and make. Just a statement that. Eligibility may be declined or your permit may be revoked at the discretion of.
I think it means if we didn't do anything, it's just saying a suspension you will do your parking permit. Suspension.
In discretion,
Yeah,
Or-
it creates a
to me,
kind
it's more, do we back it up 6 months or the prior year, or do we start the senior year and it's automatic?
And then
I
if
think
you
that's-
lose it, lose it. for the-
Well, that's for discussion, but
I mean, if it's on a first come, first served basis on a spot.
You
opens
get-
up,
you
I'm
get-
assuming
Yeah.
somebody else
You get
takes over.
caught driving around with an open container and they take your driver's license away and they don't say, it may be 6 months we'll give it
No, I
back, you know what I
understand,
mean?
that's functionally.
There's
related.
consequences that,
Yeah. But.
and they should, and as long as they know it going in. And then they, if you blow it, you blow it. I mean,
when you look at it this way, I mean, juniors park off campus. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like we're gonna say they have to, take public transportation to school. They have other things to do it. They're just losing that privilege of parking a little closer to the building, I don't know. I mean, if it's, my only concern is we don't communicate it clearly to the students.
Yeah.
And then they don't know about it and they get upset about it. I mean, we really should.
It should almost
Make
be in the
sure.
policy with.
But I don't
probably
think
what-
that that's. true. You apply for- there's-
Right, but they don't apply, so if we say the junior year it starts.
Right, but we don't have them all.
No, I know, I'm not saying you don't, I'm
So
just
we would
saying,
have to do,
Right.
yes.
so I'm confused. What are we talking about? What are we asking for?
Well, what?
I mean, are we asked?
Yeah. What is your opinion?
What
How
is
do you
my
keep the
opinion?
information? What's the easiest way for you to go back? And look for suspensions?
Right.
Is it more cumbersome for you to look at the previous 6 months, or is it easy just to look at the
I mean,
previous?
it's
grade
not
level?
bad. It's one, so it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, I personally think it's important for students to understand that with privileges comes responsibility. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying it's the opinion of the entire institution.
If the policy changes now, are there any students at risk of losing their
I don't.
parking permits?
I don't know that we can go back. I think we would have to publicize and go forward.
Okay, it's fine, I'm just asking.
I think that's fair, right? And I think that for the
Yeah.
juniors as well,
Yep.
that would have to be how, I mean, I wouldn't be looking to do that.
I guess it's twofold, do they lose it for their entire senior year, and do we look back? Or is it just? I wouldn't be okay with senior year for the full year, or, I don't know, there's a lot of different ways you can go.
Caroline, when do they apply to be permanent?
Summer, their return to senior year.
Thank you. I would think, in my opinion, would probably be that since they apply in the summer of the senior, year, just finished the junior year, that maybe the last 3 months of the junior year, you would then put, if they were suspended anywhere from the last 3 months of the junior year, then wouldn't be allowed to apply at that point in time. Moving forward, assuming the spots available with that, would there be a time period they could reapply? I think we're gonna overcomplicate this.
Yeah.
More than we really need to, and so let's try to make it as simple as we can.
I think there has to be a time frame of some type,
I
otherwise.
agree, there
You
should be
could
a
say,
time.
that, yeah,
There should be a time frame, but let's not get into, 2 months, if there's not a blue moon and.
So A time frame for what?
Look back.
work back.
So-
Otherwise,
so
a
we'll
sixth-
only
sixth
say,
grader that's
If you got
suspended,
suspended from January of your junior year through any time in your senior year, you don't have a parking.
Well,
I mean,
technically, there doesn't have to be a look back, you could say, once you become a senior, you apply for a
That's
parking
true.
pass at
Yeah.
any point. you're suspended, you will lose it for the rest of
Then
the year.
that's just.
Yeah,
That's like
I
the
mean-
easiest way to do it. I think what others have said, that if we look back, it might promote better behavior through the junior year, knowing that they're gonna be able to get a parking spot in their senior year.
In that case, you could still make it a pretty clean sentence of just you're ineligible for. Any suspension of infraction. So 6 months later, you become eligible if there's even responsible.
You know, it's all about education of turning them into, hopefully, good citizens. So since this district is in the business of education, I agree with Caroline that we should start, putting them on the road, giving them notice. Good behavior gives rewards, and their behavior means certain, non-entities that are, that you're entitled to can be withheld.
So if they apply in their the summer of the senior year, how would you notify the juniors? Because if it's a look back period, you'd almost have to send a notification out prior to them even signing up for it.
Right, but I think that this would also be part of code of conduct discussions. I mean, there would be discussions throughout as to these are part of the consequences, if you want a parking pass. Be reminded, these are the expectations. I mean, there's a lot of conversation around this because they have to take that teen driving seminar. So if you're not familiar with that, there's Dutchess County State provides a safe driving seminar for all Dutchess County schools. If you want to be eligible to park on campus, that is something you have to do. So there's typically one date in the spring at each of the high schools, and if you can't make it to the one at Millbrook, you're welcome to go to the other schools in the county, but you have to attend that to be eligible to park on campus.
And the only thing that we're saying they'll lose it for is suspension. Okay,
Actually,
I'm
say
just
whatever we
asking.
want, but
Is leaving campus without permission, that is suspension?
typically it's an
There are a number of detentions before it's an automatic suspension, or it could be pretty much be detention every day.
I mean,
I just,
I think there's
Silly question.
progressive nature to our discipline.
So we will need to,
Memory.
we'll need to update the code of conduct. It's under suspension. This is. And then the consequence of that.
So does anybody have a proposal for what they want in here?
Say that again?
Does anyone, I mean, we can keep talking about, like, wouldn't it be cool and couldn't we, and maybe we should, and we should, like, hold a crystal over their heads and that should tell us, I mean. Does somebody have a proposal for what either we do this or the proposal, here's what I'm proposing. Somebody. Here's what I'm proposing, we add to this or delete from this.
I do like it as is actually, because I think you're giving the 12th graders a fresh start that summer when they apply. You're saying that it's a first come, first served basis. The only thing you need to apply is to have a driver's license. So in summer, before your senior year, the only thing you need is the driver's license and to have taken that seminar. It's a clean slate. So there wouldn't, in my opinion, there wouldn't be a look back period. You're giving them that year to start fresh.
but if they are suspended at any point, they would lose.
Right, so they're
You're
going
saying-
to maintain it, yes.
So you're saying the summer of the senior year is when they would be notified when they sign up for the SWAT.
Yeah, I don't even know if they would have to be notified, if they just apply. I mean, they're not gonna be suspended during the summer, so I'm not sure why they would be.
Well, they would
suspended.
sign up for it,
That's, I mean,
Is that essentially our status quo right now? That just wasn't right in this policy? Is our status quo based on code of conduct? That you would lose your parking permit for suspension level infraction?
It could be, yeah,
and that's the difference, it's not in. So we'd have to add it.
And
And David and Howard, if I'm right, did you say a 6-month look back?
I'm fine with anything. I just, the way it was
Well, yeah.
originally written didn't have any. effect.
If you're gonna do it in the junior year, you would probably do it from January forward. But if you leave it as is, then then they apply, and they lose it, that's it, you lose it for the
Yeah.
entire year. There is no reinstate.
So, are we good with this? I know you are.
Starting.
I got one person.
So senior year is what Dean is saying.
Yeah.
Do we have to put the specific language in here so that there's no question whatsoever that like to maintain the parking for like, so once this happens, you're done for the whole year.
Yeah.
We need to be really, really specific about that.
That's clean, it's clean, it's easy.
Because here it's just like it says to maintain. So is that understood? No. It wouldn't be clear. Yeah, I think we need to make it like crystal clear in the language. Not good at that.
It's changed. Student parking permits will be revoked. If
Simple.
Permanently.
We're good?
That's it.
So everybody's good with.
So we're good if we use that additional language.
So before the last two days, is that student permit will be permanently revoked if they commit a substantial level infraction or the mechanical application violating the use of the policy.
You're saying suspension or leaving without permission? Okay. I just want to make sure.
That's a suspension.
Well, that was the question before, but I think it depends on the circumstances, you said, right?
No, it's, I mean, it's
If they leave without, it's okay,
minimal.
that's fine.
Okay, and I'm assuming it's understood. Anything to do with, they come up here in the summer, start doing donuts in the parking lot, the cops arrest them. I'm assuming that.
be a clean slate.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's not. something-
No.
Great.
Well, it doesn't say, there's nothing that says if they get arrested. on school property.
So this is not, this is in full and out. I just want to be as clear as possible. No suspension.
Are we good?
Good.
We good?
Now, it does say in there that the current license has to be maintained throughout this period. You don't want to have somebody hand off their permit to somebody else if they lose their license, because it gets picked up, some yankees.
So we're good? With that language added? Going once, going twice? All right, all in favor? All right, any against? All right. Second reading, the opioid prevention. Do I have a motion to adopt? Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
How many loxotones are in each kit?
I think two in each kit.
Because depending on,
It's usually more than.
Two in each.
yeah, it's 20, how many kits do we have?
So we have one by each AED throughout the district. We have them in the nurse's office, and then I believe we had 20-something additional people trained recently that would be getting.
Yeah, every.
Correct.
How quickly do we get new kits if we need them, say replaced, something's used?
What if something were new? I mean, pretty quickly. It be 6:15.
Got it, thank you.
Question? All in favor? Any against? Let's see. Committee reports, culture committee,
The culture committee met, I thought we had possibly talked about this already. We started to unpack the first survey that was given at the end of last year. And we'll continue to do that work and create priority tasks for this year as well.
does the target date on doing that?
Our next meeting.
Okay,
Nope, not off the top of my head.
that's all right, I mean, as
Sorry.
long as, as long as it remains priority.
December 8th. December.
So the next board meeting, no. We have the reviews, right? So like the
The 20th.
20th? Okay. All right, technology committee,
Technology committee met on November 3rd, discussed the projects that were through the summer and fall have completed. And so, this, we want to work with the, work on the Google, see if there's some sort of standards. Just want to get that by the next meeting.
We also had a wellness committee meeting, Samantha ran that, we reviewed the minutes from the last meeting of last year, we talked about where each of the committees was, in their progress towards their goals. And then we started to create, some action items to begin this work again for the 22-23 school year, and those committees are, social emotional health, physical wellness. We have a garden committee, we have, the child nutrition committee, and then we have an advocacy. All within wellness.
well, again, questions from the public?
None.
None. Okay. I assume none.
Not yet.
No, actually, let me change that. You have none. All right, the enrollment report is there for your review. See, to be honest with you, Alex, this is why when you said 200, I'm like, wait a minute, 200, we only have 800 kids. Oh my God. You know, maybe that's one of the things we need to put on, when we say 200, it is 200 out of whatever the total number is, just so people don't freak when they see things
Yeah.
like that. They understand the full, whatever. Anyway. Okay. All right, oops. SIR, any comments, questions? All right. PTO report.
Okay. So last week, Alden Place and the PTO co-sponsored an SEL program through martial arts therapy. I got great feedback from staff, teachers, but also the instructors gave great feedback about our kids. They said that they were wonderful to work with. No issues were presented, so that was really nice to hear. The PTO is also sponsoring a fundraiser to help with the Lion King field trip this summer for the 4th and 5th graders. So tickets are being sold for the Elf movie, which is going to be shown on December 11th at 10 a.m. in the Roosevelt Theater in Hyde Park. You cannot buy tickets at the door. You have to do so beforehand. So by cash or check. Carolyn nicely mentioned the parent night out, so that I just wanted to add, it is going to be at Alden Place and Elm Drive simultaneously. So Elm children can stay at Elm, Alden will stay at Alden. It is $20 per student plus $10 per sibling. They're gonna have pizza, a snack, and do a craft. And I believe you have to RSVP by December 7th and also pay by cash or check. I believe also the district-wide fruit fundraiser is still going on. If you need information, you can check out the PTO page. There's some like grapefruits and oranges. And lastly, the PTO is working on planning a middle school gathering. It's gonna be district-wide, but at the middle school, like a bingo night in January, February. So there'll be more information to come on that. And that is all.
Question for Dan?
I do, I have two. For the tickets for Elf. How do parents, because I saw the flyer, but how do we get them?
Yes, So what I believe is going to happen, you're going to pay, I think even we're accepting Venmo. You'll be on a list of who's going to be able to go attend the movie and how many tickets you purchase. So you're gonna actually get the tickets at the door and your name will be on the list of who's purchased them.
Who do I come to?
Mrs.
PTO?
You can, or Mrs. Link as well. Yes.
$7. Thank you.
The payments are to be made to the PTO, yes,
To the PTO. Okay.
yes.
And then for the parents' night at home. Siblings. Do they have to be at Elm, Alden?
I believe they don't have to be in the same building. I will double check, but I believe they don't have to be in the same building, which is what.
Is how young?
Well, some pre-K, yes.
Well, you know, if I get a toddler.
Oh, I'm
Michelle was
sorry.
trying to get.
Oh,
me
I'm
to-
sorry, let me clarify. I believe this is just for students enrolled in the district.
Well,
But that was a good question, yes. Just students enrolled. Please don't drop off babies or toddlers. Thank you. But we'll take her. I'll take her.
And no senior citizen. There you go. Yeah. That sounded good. for us. MEF?
Okay, so, and yeah, that's that on Thursday. And we're pleased to, fund $5,000 toward, the, helping out financially with the 8th grade field trip to DC. So we're doing that and, Taste of Millbrook will occur in fall 2023, so 9/23/23. Lots of things being planned there, so just, you know, put that on your calendar. And yes, 9/23/23. And then our annual appeal letters are going out for Giving Tuesday, I think it's called, after Thanksgiving. So those are out, going out and about.
You want to mention Amazon Smile? I think they
Well,
forgot about it. Or is there
Can
something-
you?
No, I can.
Yes,
If-
Amazon's.
I mean, obviously, we want people to shop local and everything else, but if you're forced to go on Amazon and order Christmas gifts, you can go through Amazon Smile and you can pick Millbrook Educational Foundation, and every purchase you make, a certain percentage goes right to MEF. So just spread the word if you're an online shopper. Again, I don't want to upset the local merchants, but
Do you just go, because I did it last year, do you just go and you sign up once and it just automatically does it from there on in? Or is it- Okay,
it should automatically do it, and it'll tell you, actually, you can go in there and see how much.
yes, I got a. with a
That's how you
report.
realize how much you shop on Amazon.
It's frightening, yeah, but it was nice. 'cause
It
it
adds
said,
up.
like this, how much went.
Yeah.
So that-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can hate to be 200.
Okay. Thank you. All right, just like, I think we put enough stuff on the next few meetings, but if you've got anything you want to talk about after that, let me know. Still haven't heard anything more about, the school building, Thorn building. But hopefully we'll get that on the calendar soon. All right, before we go to executive session, even though we're gone, we may make decisions that mean we have to come back and take action. So just because we go to executive session doesn't mean the meeting's over. Just want to let the people, especially the public, know that. So do I have a motion to go to executive session? Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any against? 5 minutes? 7 minutes?
Yeah, sure.